Hi everyone, just a quick introduction. This is a short video on how to remove the door card but also replace the regulator for electric front windows on a Nissan Qashqai. This is a 2011 model. The window broke on a frosty morning, trying to undo it, common fault. I've actually fixed it. This is the second time I've done it on this vehicle. Just a couple of things before. I've tried to set this out as like a how-to, step by step, but please watch the video end to end before you start, because you do need a couple of specific tools. And also to replace the regulator, you do need to drill some rivets out and replace them with some nuts and bolts, which you'll need to buy. And you want to do that obviously before you take the window out and start dismantling the car. So I'm not a mechanic, as you can tell by this video, so I'd suggest this is a job that you can do as a competent DIYer. Took me about an hour and 15 minutes, including shooting all the videos, so apologies for the video quality. I was doing it at night because the window was stuck down and we needed to fix it before we went to bed, and obviously I was doing most of it one-handed, so hopefully you can get some confidence from that. This is something that you can try yourself, but make sure you've got the replacement window regulator. You might not need to buy one with the motor, you can just buy the regulator on its own. So again, have a little look. I've described what broke in this. If you're putting the window down, it's going click, 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 and you can hear the motor working. You probably don't need to replace the motor, just the regulator mechanism itself. But I've shown you all this stuff in the video. I hope you find it useful. I've posted this because when I first tried to fix this problem, I found lots of videos about replacing the getting the door card off, but nothing about how to replace the regulator. So hope you find it useful. Please give me a like and a comment. If you've got any tips yourself, or if you found this video useful, let me know. I'd love to see some reactions. So take care everyone, and good luck. Tools you'll need: 6mm drill bit to drill out rivets and make any holes bigger. Because I used hex key bolts, I did a H4 Allen key bit, whatever they're called. To undo the screws in the back of the motor, you need one of these style, I don't know what they're called, Torx or something like that, and it is a what is it, T15. You need a, well, I'm using a 10mm nuts, so I need a 10mm spanner or a socket. That's easier with a impact driver. You need a flathead screwdriver to take some of the door cards off. But that's the other thing. These bolt screws, whatever you want to call them, that fix into here, you need a hefty sized Phillips screw to go in those, or it's an 11mm socket, which actually I found easier just using one of these on my impact driver. So this is what I got from Screwfix. M6 12mm bolts and then M6 nuts. Make sure you get lock nuts with the little plastic locking bit in there, so they don't work their way undone and then fall off and rattle in the door. Get a flathead screwdriver underneath this bit of plastic trim, and it will just ping out from the bottom. It's just literally held with a couple of little plastic clips, and then in here you'll have 2 screws, one there, one there. Obviously I've taken them out, but you just unscrew those, and then this literally just, you need to pull the handle and it'll unclip. It's got a big long clip there. So again, when you refit this, it's just literally a case of, that's why I'm doing this cack-handed, I'm trying to film. Thread that on there, clip that in, push that in, those 2 screws, do them up, and then that just literally clips back on and you're all done. This to remove, screwdriver in that end and pop it up. You see it's just got a couple of little clips, and to refit that, simply, oh yeah, look, unclip it from that end. There we go. So once you've prised it off from the bottom, pulling it out, you then just lift it up and it will lift straight off the door. Right, here's just a quick video of the back of the door card. So when you're prising this away from the door, after you've undone the screws that hold it in, you've got these clips around the edges. See those? Just all the way around the edge. They just clip into the door and it's those that you're just trying to prise off. They do just pull out, but as you can see, they do run around the whole edge, so it's best to just get lever behind the door card from the back, pull it off, and then eke it up, and then the top of the door card hooks into there, so then you sort of just pull it. Right, so once you've removed the door card, this is what we're faced with. Okay, so what you have to do is undo all of these screws around the edge here and here to remove this plate, and then you also have a couple of extra screws you need to remove to get the mechanism out. This one here, and also this one behind there, because that's where the bars for the regulator mechanism come from. So from memory, you have to take the door handle off, which is this screw here. So I'll point it out. Let's go. Once you've removed the screw from there, put it to the right and it comes off, and then you can get proper access to that nut there. Just come and take these all off. Oh. Best to use a right size screwdriver. Okay, so undone the screws from here, and I can see that's coming loose, but like I said, you need to undo these two nuts here from the top, and then the window regulator mechanism should pop out. Right, one thing to bear in mind is you need the window to be up, so the bottom of the window is in line with these holes, which is where you then unclip it, the window glass, which is there from the bottom of the mechanism. My window's stuck down, so I've just been able to prise my hand under here and just push the bottom of the window up. Look, I'm just gradually eking it up, so hopefully then I can grab it from the top and pull it up. Let's see how we go. Yeah, so I've been able to, forcing my fingers up there, pushing the bottom of the window up and pulling it from the top. I'm now just exposing these. We've got the torch. See in there, there's another screw nut thing in there, bolt. That's what attaches the mechanism to the bottom of the glass. So I'm just going to pull the window up a bit more, see if I can. There we go. Now we've got, so there's, you can see the bottom of the glass. If I just pull the window up now, I want to, there we go. I want to be able to get access to these two bolts here, and then I'll undo those. I'll be back in a sec. For reference, this is it's an 11mm socket. So just literally undo those bad boys. Undone that one there, look. Don't lose these obviously in the inside the door. Not only will they rattle, but obviously you won't be able to put it all back together again. So I'm going to use my other hand. I don't want to drop that. Yeah, I've dropped it in the door, so I'm going to have to retrieve that in a second. For God, Christ's sake. But anyway, now the window is free. You should be able to lift the glass right up and unhook it from the door mechanism. So I'm just going to gently lower that now inside the door and not break it. So now you've obviously taken the window off this whole bit. You need to push these in at the top, and then it'll just come out. That just needs to ping off of there. Oh, come on, you. There we go. Unclip the window motor cable from here. Oh, I need two hands, hang on. Right, so there we go. There's the glass of the window. That's where it's attached to there, and there to the winder mechanism. And we've got that bad boy out. So let's go inside and I shall show you, which is the tricky bit, how to replace these bits. Don't try and get grease all over your hand. Come on, let's go. Right. Right, Poppy, giving us a hand. Right, now this is where Nissan make this more difficult than it needs to be. So I've actually replaced this once already. This is the second time this is broken. But what you'll see when you take yours apart is to take the winder mechanism off. You need to take these two bars off and this bit here. But actually what they do is this point here and this point here are riveted. So what you have to do is you have to drill these rivets out to get them off. Undo that bolt, and take these off to take the motor off. But then once you've drilled out these rivets here and here, don't try and replace them with another rivet because they're so heavy duty. You need a machine to actually rivet rivets that size. Just buy some bolts and nuts and replace it like so. I will have a look at what nuts and bolts I used. I got them from Screwfix. Cost me like £2.50 for the bags of 100 of them or something. And I'll leave the detail in the description, but that's the thing that's tricky on these. So I'm going to take this off now and then I'll get the new one out and show you how you refit it. Right, so I've undone all those bolts and screws, taken these out, and it all just comes off nice and easy. The thing that breaks on the back of this mechanism, there's 3 plastic pins there. Literally, it was a bit frosty, went to wind down the window, it was frozen shut, snapped off, done, dusted, in the bin. So then you end up with that. And there's the motor. And again, another thing to bear in mind is because it's just the plastic, these teeth that snap off for the winder mechanism, if the motor's turning, you just need to replace the winder mechanism. You can reuse the motor unit. So there's a replacement regulator. Bought it on eBay for these people. 45 quid rather than like 75 quid from Euro Car Parts. Might need that guarantee. This one, yeah, it comes with some replacement rivets. You can just see how thick they are. There's no way you can get a rivet gun that will meaningfully repurpose those, so it's much. One thing that is worth doing is when you take the old regulator off, keep it laid out how it came off, because you can see this just comes in a bit of a tangled mess, so it just helps you lay it out in the same way. Let's get this refitted. So there's the new regulator just fitted on. So like I said, I've just replaced those bolts, screws, whatever, with a little nut and bolt. Just goes through there, there, and there. So I did just need to drill out those holes because they were a little bit on the small side. But that's all now fitted back on, ready to put back in the car. Here's a useful tip: before you screw the motor on, lower the winder mechanisms down so they're in line with these holes. Because I've put all this together now, I will need to reconnect the motor just to move them down so I can screw the window back in. So anyway, let's go and get this put back in the car. So literally just slide that back up the same way it come out. You can see that when I line the holes up at the top, I can now put my bolts through there, so that's all good. Just literally going to put all these screws back in, and then I'll need to connect the motor, wind the window mechanism up so it's level with the holes, screw the window in, and it's all back together. Jobs are good one. So there we go. I ended up just putting a washer on there as well. Keep them in. So now I need to get the ignition on, reconnect the window switch. There we are. Now, oh hang on, got to plug that in as well. Click. Think it's going to work? No, ignition on. Remember, when you're doing this, keep your fingers away from the mechanism. So I need to just move the window regulator now so it just lines up with the hole. There we go. So can get access to these bad boys now. So now it's just a case of lifting the mirror, lifting the window up. Make sure it sits in the runners, and then we should lower it down. There we go. So that sits on there like that. Give that a wiggle so it fits in there nice and snug. And then, accidentally pressed the button. So now I've just got to put these bolts, one back in there and one back in there. I might have to move that up a little bit just to get it in line. And then it's just a case of putting the door card back on. So actually that's gone so well. Famous last words. Not too bad. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. If you're doing these back up with an impact driver, don't over tighten them because you will strip the thread on the door. Same with these bad boys. Now these are magnetic. I used a 10mm socket with a magnet in it, because if you drop them down in here, you do need to take all this back off again to go and fetch them. So yeah, that's all done and dusted. Now it's just a case of putting the handle back on, take this off again obviously, put the door card back on. Job's a good one. Also, make sure you do put these pads back on these holes. I covered them with duct tape, gaffer tape, to stop them coming off, because if you don't seat this back in here properly, you will get damp come in the car, because water always seeps down in through the door sill, so that just stops it coming through into the back of the door card. So yeah, just make sure you put everything back nice and secure the way it was. Right, before refitting the door card, make sure you install the rubber seal. It's important that it's got a couple of different recesses for that to fit in. Make sure it goes in the one, this one here, close, this groove at the end, in there, and make sure it sits nicely flush against the window. And then the top of the door card clips into this ridge along there, and make sure you get a nice tight seal against the window to keep the road noise out. And also just check these are all seated tight in their little clips. It'll just help you refit these without these popping out like the one did to me a little minute ago. Just check that they're all in position. It is just worth checking that all of your panel clips are on the back of the door, because if they're not, you end up with a big panel gap like that, and then once you've fitted it all, you then find it rolling right under there, and then you have to take it all back off again and put it back on. So check that first.